Welcome to this BAKERpedia seminar all about keto and high protein baking. I'm Dr. Lynn, your host for today. This seminar is brought to you by Bender, a leading supplier of measurement and process technology solutions for the milling, baking, and pasta industries. They're here to help you reliably determine flour and dough properties, especially for keto products. Also joining us is Benexia, who is specialized in the production and processing of chia-based ingredients. Naturally high in fiber and protein, their chia flours are full of nutritional and functional benefits. Our final sponsor is Napra Foods, a multi-category market leader in delicious, allergen-free, and plant-based food ingredients that make it easier for commercial bakeries and leading food brands to create nutritional products. Today, we are joined by Dr. Ryan Kowalski. Dr. Ryan Kowalski is the Business Development Manager for the food division of CW Braebender. Ryan's background is in extrusion, and he has worked in the development of snacks and cereals, meat analogs, and pet food. Ryan has a PhD in food science and a bachelor's in chemistry. Also joining us is Remy Reguero. Remy is an agricultural and biosystems engineer with over 24 years of experience in the food and beverage industry. Working in product development and quality, he is currently Benexia's technical and business development director, supporting customers with recipe formulation, especially with keto high protein formulations. Lastly, joining us is Kim Mayo. Kim is a registered dietitian and R&D project manager at Napra Foods. Her background in nutrition and food science is helpful when communicating with clients on ingredient functionality, understanding nutrient content, and product development. We are going to hear from Remy later with some keto creations, and Kim will join us in the Q&A. But first, Ryan will share a presentation on analyzing ingredient functionality for keto baking, created with Dr. Debo Mitra Day. Dr. Day is a food extrusion specialist from Braebender. Take it away, Ryan.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being here. So Deb Mitra, so she runs our laboratory, but she unfortunately couldn't be here today. So I'm stepping in for her to help take her place. Let me get the presentation shared here. I work in our business development section of food at Braebender. Braebender, if you're not familiar with us, of course, we make things like the farinograph and that throughout the industry for different rheological analysis of equipment. So if you have any questions with any dough rheology things, feel free to let me know. Feel free to let Deb Mitra know. Both of us can help answer technical questions and practical questions about the equipment itself. So to focus a little bit on keto and gluten-free items today, I have a brief presentation just to talk a little bit about methods and how we start to analyze some of these products, and using, I guess, methods that you probably are familiar with through different farinograph or glutopeak type methods, but with a spin for keto type products. So we'll look a little just at the ingredients for baking, and tools that we use to analyze those, and the link between properties and baking quality. So generally, of course, wheat is one of the most used ingredients for bread making. It's known for providing the best texture. However, after we go into a lot of the keto things, wheat has a fair amount of starch within it. And that starch is detrimental when we're looking at a lot of these keto diets. Additionally, in the gluten-free space, we try to stay away from wheat, of course, too. So wheat is, of course, though, the baseline that we're always looking at with a lot of these things. And the protein especially is what gives a lot of those characteristic properties that happen, as far as the bread being able to expand and rise, and how it bakes and how it stretches, how the dough is worked. It's responsible for all those basic properties. So the need for going more keto, you usually are replacing that starch with some protein. Um, so the protein part, um, that high protein, as we look at it, it's preferred a lot by consumers looking to increase their protein intake or follow dietary plans such as the keto diet or a gluten-free diet if they're looking towards the gluten-free options. Um, and focusing on that low carbohydrate, high protein type of eating. I know bread is usually a hard thing with a lot of those keto type items because there's inherently usually a fair amount of starch and carbohydrates involved in it. Uh, so these properties, though, if you follow a lot of these diets, they can help increase your health through different reports and different studies that are out there throughout a lot of them. So how are we looking a lot of times at these protein intake? Different ingredients might be being used, such as different pulse flours that exist out there nowadays to try to get away from the gluten and as well look at higher protein, different pea protein flours, flaxseed. There's also been then you shift towards something like corn and rice and mix it with these proteins so that you have less carbohydrates and more proteins. So as we just to briefly look at like what some of these do in baking, when we have a type of potato or this is a study that came out in Journal of Cereal Science. It was looking at a wheat flour incorporated with different types of proteins. So trying to up that protein content with alternative types of proteins. So, as we look over at the loaves, the gluten, as expected, usually performs the best in terms of loaf volume. But it's not the only option out there as far as different proteins being added. And actually, in this study, they found that carob and zein proteins also helped benefit with different high specific volumes in the loaf and maintaining that, as well as low crumb hardness within them. The pea, lupin, and fava protein showed a little bit lesser type of volume and a little bit harder type of crumb in this study. So it's important to understand how this might work beforehand, and that's where we talk a lot about the analysis part. So I know a lot of people are very familiar with the farina graph for looking just at wheat flour and how that gluten develops in it. The glutopeak, more and more people are becoming familiar with and understanding how your wheat protein is, I should say, what it does generally is it takes your wheat flour and whips it at about 3,000 RPM with that paddle you see, creates that gluten structure very fast, and you're looking at a peak torque response out of it. So it's essentially a very fast way of looking at gluten quality as opposed to the farina graph way, which is more traditional and looks at how you would mix it in a production type environment. So the farina graph, if you're not as familiar with it, it's used to measure different water absorption and rheological properties. You can look at things like dough stability, which is essentially how long you have in a mixing window around a peak. To simplify it a bit, dough development time is your optimal mixing time you're looking at for your flours. And traditionally, we're always shooting for a 500 BU or FE, depending on which units you're choosing, consistency for the dough with an adjusted quantity of water. And that's looking at how we hydrate that. And this is seen throughout the baking industry quite a bit. The glutopeak itself, if you're not as familiar with some of those results that come off of it, what a standard wheat type result might look like. Like I said, it uses that paddle and whips up the gluten structure very fast to help characterize the gluten quality in flour. But you're looking a lot at aggregation time of this high peak, as well as what type of torque it's generating out of it. And that can help you identify these properties as you look through trying to reformulate different baking things. So I wanted to share a few examples that different studies have published and different people have worked on, but just to show a little bit of what you can expect with some different glutopeak results. So the harder the flour, usually the earlier that peak occurs and the higher torque it occurs at. So you see some different, like a bread as a hard flour, a high peak early on, whereas a cake is a softer flour, so it's a lower peak later on in a test. So how we can look at like these keto type things when we're adding these proteins into it. So this is a study that was done that they're using wheat flour and blending these proteins in it to try to raise the protein, lower the wheat flour content in it. And so they looked at the different zein, potato, carob, pea type proteins. And so we're looking at a bunch of these different glutopeak type curves. So you can see that the one kind of highlighted in green is our default, our just wheat flour type sample, our control. Whereas one with pea protein is that dash one highlighted in red. And the reason I wanted to show that is we're getting a peak torque or optimal mixing out of it much faster than we expected. So, that tells us as we start to go towards developing these with pea, our mixing time probably needs to be shortened quite a bit. Alternatively, we have zein protein or corn protein. I highlighted down in purple. So that is occurring, closer to where our control time is, but its peak is very different, a lot lower. So that's telling us that this dough is not as strong, that it's, for those that have worked a little bit more with some of the gluten-free, it's a weaker type dough. It rips easier. That's going to create problems in how it bakes. And so you need to adjust for that, whether it's through water quantity to try to get different strengths of dough, or through mixing parameters and time around it. So additionally, I just kind of wanted to bring up a little bit from the farina graph side of it, as to different methods that have been looked at. So in these, when you're losing baking volume, it's common to also use different stabilizers, different hydrocolloids to help with the formula and build back some of the structure. And so this was a study that they used the farina graph and looked at different combinations of these hydrocolloids with rice flour in a gluten-free type thing. So this can be important in the keto world because as you're using these, it's important to understand these, how these hydrocolloids are building back that structure. For those of you that don't know, the farina graph does have a gluten-free type attachment. Essentially, it's a lid that keeps your material down into the paddles, and has a clamp that goes over it for that. That helps with, as you're working with anything gluten-free, stops it from bubbling out over the mixing blades, which tends to be a problem with some of the gluten-free analysis. But as we look at this, there's different hydrocolloids in the farina graph curves. So we're shifting in a lot of these where our dough development time is, where our optimal mixing time is. And as you can see, our stability window is also changing. So our flexibility around our parameters has changed as well. So this is important in understanding, like if we're using a lot of those, say a zein protein is added as an additional amount into a bread type product, and you're also trying to stabilize it with, say, a guar gum, you're changing where your peaks are occurring. Your optimal mixing window is getting narrower, and it might be a bit earlier. So that can help you in going to the bench and then adjusting where your parameters need to be with it. Yeah, so I'll turn it over at this point. Actually, oops, sorry, I had one more slide. These are just kind of the pictures from the study before, where we're looking at the bake volume that occurred with these different hydrocolloids added into the bread. Yeah, so there's a few references if you want to look at some of those studies, see them in detail, where they're published. Yeah, otherwise I think I'm going to be passing it on to Remy first to talk a little bit about the gluten-free applications work and formulation. Keto-friendly formulations. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I have turned off my video because apparently my signal is not strong enough. So I do apologize for that, but I'm still here. Next up, we would like to see some solutions from Benexia on keto and high protein. Remy, what did you cook up in your lab? Okay, you got to unmute yourself. Oh, you're still muted, Remy. There you go.
There I go. Okay,
Yeah.
and let me show my presentation. Hi, hello everybody. Thank you for having me here. I am Rem Reguero from Benexia, and thank you, Dr. Lin. I'm going to present some application. Benexia, for those who that don't know us, we are a chia seed specialty ingredient manufacturer. And as we all know, in the keto diet, mainly chia seed is one of the recommended seed that because of its high protein content, its low net carb, as well as the functional property of its fat and the fiber. And at Benexia, and one of our top ingredients in keto baking application, high protein applications, is Benexia Chia Powder 435 WLM, which is a defatted millet chia flour that is made from 100% white chia seed and is highly concentrated in great ingredient or let's say nutrient, right? So the chia powder, first of all, is only have 0.1% of net carb, and 99.9% of the total carb is fiber. It contains 25% of protein of high biology value. The PB-CAS of the chia powder 435 is 0.95, 85%. And it's contained 9% of fat, which is great because it's balanced the omega-3, omega-6, which is essential for keto diet, where you normally you are taking highly intake of, let's say, high fat, saturated fat, and also fat containing a lot of cholesterol. So, and it's scientific knowledge that the omega-3 is proven to be a regulator of the cardiovascular and blood pressure for people that have a slightly highly blood pressure or high cholesterol. So this is a great thing. Coming back to the fiber in the chia, which contains 56%, it is a combination of both soluble and insoluble fiber, with 11% of soluble fiber and 89% of insoluble fiber. And this is where the chia powder gives you some help in the functionality, because the soluble fiber in chia allow you to absorb a high quantity of water, up to 20 milliliter of water per 1 gram of chia flour, 435. So this help you to formulate to water retention, to help you in the moisture process when you do, like we say, and Dr. Ryan say, keto product, right? That you don't have any starch, and then you need to have that binding effect and that moisture retention in order to soften the product and deliver to the consumer a high protein product with soft and regular texture, what the texture we're looking for. Okay. Also, one another nutrient that the chia powder have is contain high level of calcium with 890 milligram per 100 gram, which normally in high keto or high protein diet is something that is missing and you need to reinforce. Okay. The chia powder 435 can be used in gluten-free application. It's allergen-free. It's vegan. It's vegetarian. You can use it. It's RTE, so you can use it in any type of application in bakery or even in raw dough, raw bar, cookies, pasta applications. So today we're going to be focused on mainly on the bakery side, and I have two products I would like to share with you. But first of all, I just give you like a broad range of all the applications that you can do in let's say a high protein, a high fiber bakery product, whole grains, even gluten-free application, even for replacement of, let's say, functional fiber in your recipe. And the first one that we're going to see is the Keto Chia Looping Burger Bun. I'm going to go back and forward with the presentation so you guys can see the real product. This recipe has 2 net carbs for a 65 gram serving size. It's contained 19 grams of protein. It's contained 321 milligrams of omega-3 and up to 16 grams of fiber per portion. So, which is make it very nutritional balanced recipe, right? And one of the good things here is that in this recipe, we are using the looping flour, which is contained around 36 to 40% of protein, the chia flour, gluten, protein, like concentrated gluten, and egg, okay? This is the source of the protein. And here, the chia powder phosphorified is going to be responsible of 10% of the protein, 30% of the fiber claim, and 100% of the omega-3. But it's going to help in the combination with the gluten and the egg to bind the ingredient and give us, let's say, a softer color, okay, and a texture, okay? So, and the great thing about it is it allows you to absorb a lot of water in a cost-effective way, because we always have to say that we need to deliver to a consumer a product that they can purchase, that it's going to be competitive, but still give them the necessary texture and product. So I don't know if I can put my whole screen as a main. Okay, now perfect. Thank you very much. So this is a bun, okay, that we bake. Okay, you see it. And now I open the bun and you can see the texture that bring you the chia powder. The chia powder help you to bring that nice crumb, moisture crumb, you see, with flexible. And I actually also did, I toast it. So you can toast it. And this is a great thing about burger, because I mean, in keto, everybody talk like, oh, you can have a cheeseburger, but no buns, right? In this case, you can use this bun as a burger. And when you toast it or grill it, that's going to give you that nice crunchiness in the bread, right? And this is what you're looking for. But still give you the moisture. So it's not a very dry product. It's not going to be dry product, and it give you like a nice texture in your formulation, okay? It's my second product that I'm going to present today, which is more on the indulgent side, is going to be the keto, and this is the keto chia muffin, but it's a gluten-free version, okay? So still, the chia powder phosphorified can be used in gluten-free application. Normally what we do is in this recipe, in this formulation, we use 8% of chia powder phosphorified WLM with combination with almond flour and egg, which is going to be responsible of the protein side. It's only going to have 2 grams of net carb, so it's a keto recipe. It's going to contain about 6 grams of fiber, 8 grams of protein, 7 grams of protein, sorry, and 350 milligrams of omega-3. And one of the great things here is that in muffin, you want to have that racing. When you bake it, of course, you're using some baking powder in order to reinforce the structure of the product. But whenever you reformulate it with high protein, you want to maintain that softness, and you don't want to break that dough. Okay, in this type of product, what we have done is, let me. So we have this. Yes, thank you very much. So we have this muffin. This is a product coming out, and when we open half of it, you see the nice texture that you have, which is the moisture that the chia powder help you to bind those ingredients together. Okay, very soft texture, which, you know, like a very softness on it. And of course, I have my small version for me, mini version, so you can taste it. And the product is very nice. This one is made with almond pieces, But you also can use you also can use let's say like a chocolate chip. Okay, in chocolate chip, I recommend to use let's say unsweetened chocolate, dark chocolate, and it's go very well. But also you can use let's say blueberry powder on it. Just remember that blueberry powder or berry powder is gonna add some carbohydrate, so you have to keep it very low into the level of 3 grams per net carb. So the product still can be called keto or high protein. Also, if you want to put more protein, of course, you can use different type of protein in your formulation. We have tried with, let's say, animal-based protein like casein or whey. Also, you can use plant-based protein like we mentioned before, the rye and pea protein, or I prefer soy protein because they're going to give you a better texture in your formulation. But sometimes you have also restriction in your diet, in your formulation, and in the target of the product you want to achieve. So we always you need to keep it, which one is going to work better for you. Now, the great thing about this chia powder is that help you to bind that water, bind those dry ingredients like protein, highly concentrated protein that normally make you break the dough, and it's very easy to use. I mean, you use the chia powder on it, you absorb the water, and then you work the elasticity of your dough. Okay. You can use it for clean label. We have customers that use it in the market in the United States in order to replace, let's say, Sansan gum on your formulation, on your gluten-free formulation, because the functionality of the soluble fiber in chia help you to absorb water, bind that water, keep it moisture, but also help you to reduce the water activity on your formulation, which is at the end is going to be favorable for your, let's say, shelf life, your product shelf life, and both in texture and, avoid any microbiology contamination. Then I normally, when formulating with chia powder for 35, we normally recommend to use between 5 to 10% in your recipe, and then add the same amount, 5 to 20% or more water in your recipe. It's very easy. Also, by decreasing it helps you to decrease the emulsifier and hydrocolloid that you're going to use in your formulation. In terms of the processing, the thermal process, you can keep it the same one. You're probably going to have a little bit more extra work when you prepare when you mixing your dough, because you have a high fiber content on it, but it's still going to give you the functionality on it. And once you start targeting the texture and the dough that you want to achieve, then you can go increase and over, because every time that you increase more chia powder for 35 in your formulation, it's going to help you to absorb more water and keep reducing your cost on your formulation. So, and we're talking that the chia powder, this fiber powder is basically very cost effective compared to most of the product in the market. So it helps you to not only to replace the fiber, but also to add protein and omega-3 in the same recipe. Okay. So if you have any question, if you want to talk about it, we are here for you. Meaning we are here to answer any question, and you can use this recipe in any type of application, better for you, protein plus, clean label, and of course, keto recipe as we have seen. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. That was a very exciting presentation on chia flour. It surprises me that it provided so much volume, especially with the hamburger buns, right? And the texture for the muffins, it's amazing too. So before we get onto the Q&A, I would like to invite Kim back on and everybody on the panel. Let's unmute ourselves. I think from the presentation, it showed us that keto and high protein is possible in your product development process. I believe my experience with keto has been actually has been the opposite side, right? A lot of my clients and customers actually put too much gluten or put too much protein in there. And when you do that, you get exploding bread or exploding cakes, which shrink after the fact, right? So we need to keep an eye on that. The reason why your product overexpands is because it's too much proteins. Okay, so perhaps you could use something like the farino graph to understand, what is your standardized protein level or quality or quantity, right? And then use the same curve to create a product that has the similar curvature of the farino graph that you're after, right? So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, that say a baker who's trying to replace flour with more gluten is going to have higher peaks, higher water absorption, the rest, right? So we can talk
Yep.
about that a little bit more later, because just remember, the more rice and the more oven spring you get, the more the product is going to collapse. So with gluten system, that is the biggest problem. With gluten-free system, it's a completely different set of problems altogether. But what I've seen in both systems is the inability of yeast to function. So let's talk about that for the next minute or so. The solutions that I would like to recommend is actually look at your yeast, see what you can feed it, and basically feed that yeast to produce that volume. A lot of the issues with keto fermentation is the inability to give the yeast the food. We have successfully used inulin from chicory root, and if you need a sample, just let us know. We'll forward it to our sponsors as well. But a high oligosaccharide count for inulin is going to really help your yeast ferment in your system. So keep an eye on the yeast food and keep an eye on fermentation, and you should be able to create a really successful keto product with all the solutions that are provided here. So let's go into the Q&A, and Joanna, what questions we should start with?
Yeah, so the first one we got in, this person's trying to develop keto croissants, but they're having issues with proofing and not cooking enough. Is there any solutions you can give to kind of help with that product?
So I think the volume has a lot to do with it, and I believe that protein has a lot to do with it. But I'll let the rest of the panel answer first before I go into the details. Does anyone have a solution?
Yeah, I took a stab at it on the chat, but to Lynn's point, I think it might be related to the protein system not being strong enough to kind of support the interior and kind of creating a little bit of gumminess that might be holding it down and not proofing like you're looking for. We have found some really positive results in the keto products that we're looking at with a hemp protein. Not only does it help with some of that expansion, it also kind of sets and has a nice coagulation to kind of provide the overall structure that you're looking for. And some of the other things that we've had positive results with are resistant starches that kind of fill in some of the gaps in the matrix and not impacting the viscosity. So it might be also related to a little bit too much fiber or maybe water retention in the product, were some thoughts that I had.
Great, thank you, Kim. Ryan, do you have any kind of
Yeah, so
opinions?
I agree with Kim. Initially, it sounds like a bit of a protein problem in holding its structure. And that's where like identifying that correct type. And it's like, so Kim, you've had a lot of success with the hemp you mentioned. There's various proteins that will have different types of gelling strengths and gelling abilities to kind of help you hold that structure for longer. I think it's a matter of finding out what's right for it in that croissant type product.
Correct. And basically, whenever you have any kind of gummy texture in keto products, it's absolutely going to do with the amount of air you hold in. And for to increase the amount of air you hold in, you just have to focus on the protein system. So yeah, thank you guys.
Great. All right. The next question is, why is water absorption a critical value for bread making?
Yeah, so I'll jump in a little bit with that one. So yeah, the reason we're looking a lot at water absorption, especially like in the phrenograph test and what that means for when you're, baking your bread, um, you're looking at, being able to be consistent as you're looking between different types of bread. So your water absorption is going to change between different flour mixes as you add protein, take protein out of it. You're trying to stabilize a bit of like what you're doing so that you're working in the same space as one thing. But secondly, like as you look at it, so a bread that absorbs more water, you need to know that when you're going to your production type processes, because you might be able to use your flour and your raw materials for longer. A higher water absorption flour means more water that you're putting in, less flour you're putting in. You can make more things on whatever it is. So it's also a very critical value, just, one, from being consistent loaf to loaf, but two, trying to make the loaves as productive as possible.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Remy, this question is for you about your chia powder. Can that be used in clean label formulations?
Yes, the chia powder phosphorified basically is a natural deep-padded millet chia flour. So basically, is recognized by the FDA as an eccentric type of fiber. So yes, it is labeled in United States as chia flour or chia protein or chia fiber. It is 100% clean labeled natural by the definition. So yes, it's possible to use in clean label, and actually we have customers today that they use it to replace let's say gums or hydrocolloid to have a more clean label application in the formula.
Great, thank you. Okay. This next question is about pizza. So I'm working on developing a gluten-free keto pizza crust. I'd appreciate any ideas and help to get a good crisp on the crust. And I cannot use nut flours as our facility is peanut and tree nut-free facility. Any advice for that?
That's a tough one. Kim, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, what comes to mind would be increasing your protein content a bit. So ways that we've looked at that would be we have a hemp protein that really does aid with that. It's top 9 allergen free, so kind of fits some of those parameters that are right in your ballpark. So we have a higher protein hemp, also a hemp heart flour that's a nice light in color, 50%. So it does add some of that kind of fat component and a little bit of fiber to aid with the keto nutritional profile. Those are some of the options that we've been looking at recently.
So I would like to add to that as well. When you're dealing with a textural issue, and when it comes to the sound and the auditory tone, I would like to say auditory tone of the product, crisp and crunch has a lot to do, like what Kim say, to the protein content of the crust or pasta or pastry, whatever it is. So if you dilute the content with more fillers, say water or oil or other fillers, then you're going to hurt the auditory crunch. So I would suggest keeping your protein system as pure as possible. So add in as little oil or sugar or anything that affects the protein network. And if you're going to use hemp flour, use hemp flour. Do not add any more oil. So those kind of method of making a pizza or wanting a crunch. Not everybody wants a crunchy pizza, right? But if that's what you're after, then keep the protein system pure. Don't add in too much oil. So that's just my recommendation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and how we say, like even with you can mix different type of protein, and you
Right.
see that the color. I mean, this is toast, but if you burn it, you can get a very, let's say, crunchiness by increasing in the product. But yes, as you say, using like sea protein, such as hemp or chia, help you because they already have fat inside, so
Mhm.
it's gonna already give you that they say the great taste of the fat of it. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. All right, the next question. So, fiber is generally known to negatively impact the texture of bread by making it denser. So, is there a way to increase the fiber content and at the same time retain a good texture?
Well, yes, definitely you can do it. I mean, what we have seen here, like if we're using a high fiber, this is the muffin, and this muffin had, I believe, 7 gram of fiber, 6 gram of fiber, and you still have a nice soft texture. It's not gonna be too heavy. Of course, here is a little bit more heavy because it's still high protein, high fiber, but the product is gonna be great. It's gonna be soft, and we see that also in the burger bun, that you see that you have a nice soft moisture, let's say crumb. Now they are very rich and nutritional product, so it's very dense, let's say. But you have to understand that in keto application or in keto diet, one of the missing macronutrient is basically the fiber. So there have to be a way of providing fiber in high protein and keto applications.
Yeah, one thing to add on to that is some resistant starches that are now kind of coming onto the market and just not being as depending on the type, a little slower to take on some of that water that just standard types of fibers do. And it's all a balance of mixing and matching the different types of fibers to make sure that you're not taking on too much water, despite all the wonderful benefits too. And I know with some of the RS4 types of resistant starches, they aren't necessarily functional, so they are modified in a way that they won't be absorbing some of the water. So as a result, it's not impacting the viscosity and the rheology of the dough in the sense that, some of those negative effects of it being too sticky or too wet um, has been really positive, and we're able to put it in a pretty high percentages depending on the application. Anywhere around 30% true in the formula can be of benefit.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. So this question is, how should I use E471 in my formulas, my keto formulas?
So E471, to everyone who's not familiar with E numbers, is mono and diglycerides. And for a lot of clean label systems, that's not a very welcome ingredient to use, especially in keto. But I think Remy has a solution with the chia flour, right, Remy?
Yes, I mean in the jet flour, all the what is monoglyceride, you can replace, that because the soluble fiber in chia is a solar plasticity type of soluble fiber, and you have a right amount on it. So it basically is help you to absorb to help you to bind, right when we working in a recipe, you want that the protein and the fiber, the soluble fibers, um, help you to give the best mesh on your formula to maintain and to able to entrap those, let's say, air bubble in your fermentation. So you don't break the your dough and the structure of your dough when you baking the product, right? So, and during the fermentation and also during the baking. So yes, the chia powder for 35, we do have as I mentioned before, in the clean label, we do have a lot of customers that use it in order to replace those hydrocolloids. It's not going to be one-to-one. It's going to be depending on your recipe, depending on the amount of protein, what type of protein you have on it, if it's a functional protein or it's just pure isolated protein with no functionality. Everything you need to, and we say it here a lot, you need to find the balance on your recipe depending on what is the aiming you're looking for. And with that, you work with different type of ingredients that together, they're going to function together in order to keep and deliver you the end product that you're looking for. In this case, if you want to replace monodeglyceride, this is a way of doing it.
That's great. Thank you. Anybody else has any other solutions for that? Okay. Joanna, what's next?
Yeah, so this is a question about yeast. What would you guys suggest is a percentage of yeast to be used per kilogram of flour when you're making keto formulas?
I've seen as high as 5%, and that's the trend in the industry right now in terms of dry flour weight. Flour weight as in putting the protein flour and resistant starch system together, that would be your total flour weight. And the reason why I've seen 5% is because a lot of bakers are mixing it too hot. They're killing the yeast and they're not giving the yeast enough food. So you could actually reach out to us at support@bakerpedia.com, and we can actually set up solutions for you to reduce that amount of yeast. The typical usage for a regular non-keto dough is 1 to 2%. So as you can see, at least triple the amount of yeast when you go to a keto system. Do any of you have any more solutions to this? Okay.
Okay.
All
right. The next question is, so what is the importance of the stability parameter during a farino graph test?
Yeah. So I guess when you're mixing, think about when you're running your normal farina graph test. So you have your peak mixing time. That's your optimal mixing time that you're looking for, where you developed your dough and your mix or your blend to its peak performance. As you overmix it, you're going to start to destroy some of the functionality of the proteins and gluten proteins, things like that. They're going to break apart so that they're not. It's not going to perform as well in your bake process. How that is breaking apart, it can happen very fast. It can happen very slow. Think of stability as like a window around your mixing time as you're looking at that it's going to perform within a range. So the longer stability you have, the more flexibility you have in working with your materials. That usually helps you in predicting predicting your mixing and how you need to do it.
I would like to also stress that in high output system, stability is extremely important, mainly because of the extrusion and sheeting process in a lot of bakery plants, right? So if you're going to develop a system that mimics gluten, say for example, if you're going to develop something using alternative proteins and not just gluten proteins, then your stability needs to be similar to your standard regular non-keto bread. Like if you give up on your stability or you do not take note of your stability, you're just going to have a mess at the extruder. Like things are going to stick, things are not going to sheet, and you're going to have a gunk up mess. So this is why stability is so important on the manufacturing line. So keep an eye on that stability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mixing is not the only shear in these lines most of the time.
Yeah.
Great.
Joanna?
Okay. Yeah, so this is a question about chia powder. Remy, can you speak a little bit about the flavor of chia powder? Does it give any sort of bitter taste, or how does it affect the taste of the products?
Well, normally we, in terms of bitterness, the chia, I mean, has a grassy flavor. Normally go very well, and we see that in terms of flavor, it go more with, let's say, chocolate, acid flavor, like berry, and also with very well with vanilla. Of course, you need to balance your recipe in terms of taste, which is important. But this is a case that I've seen, I didn't see much. So you have to see what type of chia are you using, or what type of chia flour you're using, because there's different flavor in terms of the quality of the product that you will have.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. This next question is, what type of protein do you recommend for high protein keto applications?
Do we know what application is this for? Is this for bread or cakes or cookies or pastry?
Does not say, no.
Okay. So I don't know. Does anybody else have any kind of input on this? My go-to is always wheat gluten, but that's well known.
Yeah, and I think it depends a lot on application, because like wheat gluten's great when you like, it's a great go-to when you need that volume in bake type products. But if you're looking more towards, things that you don't need the structure as much in cookies or crackers, like you can opt for different proteins instead.
And also you have to, like, I mean, everything depends what is going to be your end target. If it's going to be a vegan product, it's going to be let's say, a gluten-free product. So you need to find different type of protein. Now, there's a lot of seed protein that are amazing, like the chia, the hemp. You have several different type of protein that you can work together, and mix it together. But the most important is to define what type of product you want, and then everything is possible. In our experience in Benexia, working with bakery in South America, we have done, let's say, plant-based, gluten-free, and applications, which is, you say, well, you don't have any plant animal protein like egg, or you don't have any gluten, so where you get the functionality? Well, you play with different almond protein and let's say nut and seed protein. Let's say, as I mentioned before, soy protein, which it's you're gonna be working on your balance and your, let's say, your protein, how you say, structure, right? So everything is possible. The most important is to understand what is the goal that you have in your formulation, what you want to achieve, what is the end product that you wanted to do. So then you can select which protein is going to be suit you better for your application.
Very good. Okay, great.
Great, thanks.
This question, do you all have any advice on proofing and baking time and temperature for keto products? I believe this specifically is a follow-up about the keto croissants. Yeah.
Okay. It really depends on what's the formulation. Again, you can't give an optimal processing condition for a formula that's not optimized, right? So I would say with any keto product, the proofing is going to be longer, and the mixing is going to be longer as well. So with those considerations, you just have to test it out on your line and see what optimal conditions suit your particular recipe or formulation, mainly because it's all formulation based. So it's really hard for us on this panel to really recommend a perfect proofing and processing condition for you, not knowing what are the fundamentals of your formulation.
Makes sense. Great. Okay. Kim, this question is for you. How can hemp play a role in keto and high protein products?
Yeah, so we do a lot with hemp at Nepra Foods, so we focus in the free from and gluten-free baking in particular. So we're looking at hemp specifically to remove eggs initially and found that it has a lot of really similar attributes. So specifically, not only does it have a low carbohydrate content, but it also is a natural emulsifier, which is wonderful because it helps with in the keto in particular, with where there's a higher fat content prevalent. It kind of helps with some of that binding, along with just being a really functional ingredient with a clean taste. So depending on the type of hemp protein that you're leaning toward, always looking for one that's lighter in color. So looking for a supplier that is milling the hemp heart and kind of isolating from there, as opposed to one that has the hull and the seed on there. So that's like a greener flavor, a greener look, and also has not a very clean taste. So kind of opting for a hemp protein that has been treated well and lighter in color, because that can just stand alone as a protein enhancement and be pretty neutral and nutty in taste. So depending on the flavor profile of the application that you're looking at, it can just be a protein enhancement, but then it can also act as a natural emulsifier.
Great. And I think we are at time. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I would love to thank our sponsors, Benexia, Braebender, and Nepra Foods, for joining us on the expert panel and answering all these amazing keto, high protein questions. So if you are looking for a recording of this presentation, it's going to be available next week on the website. And also, if you want to continue the discussions on keto and high protein, please follow us on our Facebook page. It's called Baking Industry Professionals. Baking Industry Professionals. Ask your questions there. All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Rami. And thank you, Kim, for coming on. And we will see you all very soon.